Hello MotoGP fans, welcome back to ZNGP. Marc Marquez delivered an impressive performance during the Indonesian Grand Prix sprint race, fighting from 12th on the grid to finish 3rd. However, his progress in qualifying was marred by 2 costly crashes. Here's more on what went wrong in Q2 and how Marquez managed to salvage a podium finish despite starting far back. The 2024 MotoGP season has been anything but predictable, and reigning world champion Francesco Bagnaia is feeling the pressure. After a crucial sprint race win at the Indonesian GP, Bagnaia opened up about the unpredictable nature of the championship. With Jorge Martin crashing out early in the race, Bagnaia capitalized on the opportunity, cutting his deficit in the title fight. But with this season filled with surprises, Bagnaia isn't celebrating just yet. Tensions are rising between MotoGP title contenders Jorge Martin and Francesco Bagnaia after an eventful sprint race at the Indonesian Grand Prix. Following Martin's crash in the early stages, Bagnaia's comments on his rival's pace stirred a response from the Pramac Ducati rider. Martin had strong words for Bagnaia as both riders prepare for the next showdown in the championship battle. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. For the 3rd consecutive weekend, Marc Marquez faced issues during the crucial Q2 qualifying session. This time, he crashed twice, leaving him without a lap time and forcing him to start 12th on the grid. Despite these setbacks, Marquez showed his typical resilience, surging through the pack in Saturday's sprint race. By the first corner, Marquez had already climbed to 5th place, and by the end, he finished 3rd, just 1.7 seconds behind the race winner. Reflecting on the race, Marquez said that even if he had started from the front row, 3rd place would likely have been his maximum result. It penalized me a lot, but analyzing, after the race, after the first lap, starting on the 1st or 2nd row I would have finished in the same position. So, we did the maximum even if we started on the 1st row. Quote from Marquez. Marquez's impressive start, though, cannot be relied on every race. He acknowledged that replicating such a strong launch off the line in Sunday's main race might be difficult. It's not normal to make that kind of start every time, and tomorrow will be more difficult. Marquez's rapid rise to 5th place by the first corner was one of the highlights of the sprint race. The Gresini rider overtook several rivals with a stunning start, finding the perfect braking point, while others struggled. I was super lucky because I started super good. Even on the straight I was catching them. On the braking point, I tried to find the best line, but here it's quite critical because I was a little bit on the inside in the dirty place, and it becomes a bit more difficult. Despite this, Marquez admitted that such starts are rare, and he cannot depend on it happening again for the main race. The real trouble for Marquez came earlier in the day during Q2. He crashed twice, unable to set a competitive lap, and found himself starting from 12th. Marquez explained that the first crash was caused by locking the rear tire during braking, which unsettled the bike and caused him to lose the front. The first tire, the mistake was a little bit similar. I had a moment on the rear because I locked the rear with the rear brake. And after that lock, it came back super sharply and I lost the front. For the second crash, Marquez pointed to an issue with the hard front tire, which he used for the time attack but struggled to get the necessary grip from. It's true in that second one I was with that hard front tire, which for the time attack I didn't like. For the race pace I used it, but for the time attack I had a little bit less edge grip. I tried to manage well, but I couldn't. Marquez concluded. Despite the challenges, Marquez's podium finish allowed him to close the championship gap to leader Jorge Martin, who crashed out during the sprint. Marquez is now just 53 points behind with a few rounds remaining, keeping his title hopes alive. Marquez remains realistic about the upcoming race and the ongoing development of his Ducati, knowing that starting from the back won't always result in a podium. Marc Marquez's ability to bounce back from a tough qualifying session to claim 3rd in the sprint race shows the grit and determination that have defined his career. But as the weekend continues in Indonesia, Can he find a way to avoid the same issues in qualifying and push for another strong result in the main race? Stay tuned for more from Mandalika. Francesco Bagnaia's victory in the sprint race at the Mandalika circuit may seem like a pivotal moment in the title fight, but the Ducati rider isn't letting it go to his head. Bagnaia, who has suffered 7 DNFs this season, described 2024 as a championship of mistakes. His comments come after Jorge Martin, the current points leader, crashed out of the sprint race, leaving Bagnaia to secure the win and cut Martin's championship lead to just 12 points. Until tomorrow afternoon, I don't want to say anything because it looks like this season is a championship of mistakes. Quote from Bagnaia. Bagnaia offered an explanation for the season's unpredictability, pointing to the evolution of the rear tires, which have improved dramatically in performance. However, this improvement has also increased the margin for error. The rear tires have taken an enormous step forward. We're braking so hard because the rear is helping a lot, but the front struggles because we're entering corners much faster. Michelin's improvement is incredible, but when you're at this limit, it's easy to crash. Jorge Martin's crash came early in the sprint race, allowing Bagnaia to seize control. But even with Martin out, Bagnaia had to contend with high track temperatures and challenging conditions, especially on the hot Indonesian asphalt, which reached 63 degrees Celsius. Bagnaia explained that he took a cautious approach, managing his pace through the most difficult sectors of the track. When I saw Jorge entering that corner, I thought if he closes that line, I will take 4 seconds because he was entering much faster with a lot of lean angle. But the conditions were so difficult today. Quote from Bagnaia. Bagnaia admitted that he strategically slowed down in the final sector to avoid risks after seeing Martin crash, while pushing harder in the other 3 sectors to maintain his lead. Bagnaia's sprint win comes after a difficult Friday at Mandalika, where he struggled to match the pace of both Jorge Martin and teammate Enea Bastianini. However, by Saturday, Bagnaia felt that he had made progress in improving his bike setup. He believed he could have qualified higher than 4th for the race, had it not been for yellow flags during the final stages of Q2. Despite a challenging weekend, Bagnaia's ability to adapt and improve session by session has kept him in contention for the title. He remains focused, acknowledging that while Saturday's strategy worked for the sprint, it won't necessarily carry over to Sunday's main race. This morning, we made a step forward. In qualifying, I understood something but didn't finalize it because of the yellow flags. But I knew my performance could have been good enough to fight for the win. For today, it will not work. But I'm happy for yesterday. Bagnaia concluded. As the 2024 season heads into its final stretch, the title race remains wide open. Bagnaia's cautious approach and ability to capitalize on Martin's mistake have brought him closer in the standings. However, both riders have experienced crashes and unpredictable results throughout the year, making the championship too close to call. With the heat of the Indonesian GP behind him, Bagnaia knows that Sunday's race will be a new challenge altogether. As he continues to battle against Martin for the title, it's clear that every race, and every mistake, could be decisive. Francesco Bagnaia may have won the sprint at Mandalika, but with this season shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable in recent memory, he knows there's still a long way to go. Will the 2024 MotoGP season truly be decided by mistakes, or can Bagnaia turn his fortunes around? Stay tuned for tomorrow's race. Jorge Martin, after crashing at turn 16 in the Indonesian Grand Prix sprint race, expressed his frustration with the incident, which left him finishing in 10th place. Martin, who had secured pole position in a stellar qualifying lap, was expected to dominate the sprint, but the crash opened the door for Bagnaia to close the championship gap to just 12 points. Responding to Bagnaia's comment that Martin would have taken 4 seconds off him had he not crashed, Martin sarcastically replied, "Yes, I would have taken 18 seconds off him. What is Pecco going to say now? It's very easy to talk when your rival has crashed." Quote from Martin. Martin emphasized that, despite the crash, his racing line was identical to Bagnaia's and that the incident remains a mystery. The crash at turn 16 puzzled Martin and his team, as many riders have also struggled at this corner without a clear explanation. Martin analyzed the incident post-race and still couldn't identify the exact cause of his fall. "I've looked at the data and I can't see anything. I'll have to be more careful in that corner because not knowing makes me uneasy. It feels like there's no grip, as if it's ice, but I don't know exactly where." Martin noted that turn 16 has become notorious for catching riders off guard, adding to the challenge of finding the perfect line. Despite the disappointment, Martin is focused on taking the positives from the sprint race, especially with the overtakes he made after the crash. He highlighted the importance of practicing overtaking, as it could be crucial in Sunday's Grand Prix. "I practiced overtaking because I had to fight back from behind, and this is also an experience for tomorrow. If there's a battle, I have the tools to fight." Looking ahead to Sunday's race, Martin sees Bagnaia as his main rival, though he acknowledged that Enea Bastianini could be a factor depending on the start. "The rival is Pecco, not Enea. But we'll see what happens. I feel comfortable with the medium tire, so I'm optimistic, though I'll need to be careful in that tricky corner," Bagnaia concluded. With Jorge Martin eager to recover from his sprint race disappointment, and Bagnaia closing the gap in the standings, Sunday's race promises to be another pivotal moment in the MotoGP championship. Stay tuned as the battle for the title heats up. Thanks for watching ZNGP today, and this is your MotoGP news update. See you in the next video.